No child is as ugly as this in the history of my family. How do I explain this? She is too dark and ugly. Once upon a time, in the bustling city of Warri, there lived a woman called Mama Kume. Mama Kume lives in the southern part of Nigeria. She is a popular fashion designer. She has 4 children, but her third child, Elohor, is very dark and she has a skin condition. Mama Kume hated her child, Elohor, for not being as beautiful as her sisters. She looks for every opportunity to belittle her and made her know that she is ugly and no man would want to settle down with a girl like her. Makume was not fair to Elohor at all. She would often call her dumb for any slight mistake and compare her to her sisters and her peers. Her siblings also did not help matters, as they often blamed Elohor for everything missing or broken in the house. But the last child, Ovie, loves Elohor so much that she goes anywhere she goes and defends her every time. Due to this, the people around the village refer to them as the unidentical twin. Elohor is a very forgetful girl when it comes to errands, but she has a strength too. She is a highly intelligent storyteller. Every evening, she would gather the little children around the community and tell interesting stories that would keep them glued into the night. The news of her amazing stories soon reached the parents of these children, and as time went on, the parents would sit to listen to the lovely tales told by Elohor. One day, Mama Kome sent Elohor to give some clothes to a customer and bring the money paid. But Elohor was dragged by the villagers to tell them some stories. Forgetting her mother's errand, she began to tell her stories, cracking the villagers up and leaving them in tears after telling emotional tales. She was in the middle of telling her third story when her mother appeared with a long cane. She hit her hard from behind and dragged her away from the crowd. The children watched while their mothers and fathers begged Mama Kume to take it easy on Elohor. But Mama Kume did not listen to any of them as she dragged Elohor away. She beat her severely and locked her in her room for hours. When Elohor asked her for dinner that night, Mama Kume refused to give it to her. Later that night, she went to where Elohor lay crying due to hunger. I regret having you as a child. You are ugly and dumb at the same time. I sent you to get money for the clothes delivered, but you did not bother to check if the money was complete. Mama Kume yelled as she threw the money on Elohor. She sent her out that night and asked her to get the complete money from her customer or she would deal with her. Ella ran out of the house crying as she walked along lonely path to get the balance from her mother's customer. Mama Kume sat outside thinking of what to do with Ella. She remembered when she had just given birth to her and the midwife forced her to take the baby away. When Mama Kume saw Ella after giving birth to her, she asked the midwife to take the child away as she screamed. The midwife was surprised as she held onto the little baby. She asked her why she would suggest that and Mama Kume replied, "No child is as ugly as this in the history of my family. How do I explain this? She is too dark and ugly." Mama Kume complained. "Mama Kume, how can you say that? Are you God? Can you create a human being? No child is ugly. Please take this child and take care of her." Mama Kume reluctantly collected the child from the midwife, and she couldn't bear to look at her for too long. Her large brown eyes are scary to Mama Kume, and whenever it's time to breastfeed Elo, she would cover her face with a handkerchief to avoid eye contact. She would also leave Elo unattended for hours and she would cry and cry. Her husband did not help matters. He would often tell her to pick up the demon she gave birth to. He blamed her for always going out at night while pregnant, because if she hadn't done that, a demon wouldn't have had the chance to change the baby in her womb. Her neighbors would walk past Mama Kume quickly when they saw Elohor with her, and when Elohor began to walk, people ran away from her. They called her demon, devil, and all sorts of names. However, as Elohor was growing up, people began to see her in another light, as she was always full of life. She would often chase the little kids to scare them, but as time went on, they became friends with her because of her unique gift of storytelling, and people began to look beyond her looks. Mama Kume's thought was interrupted by Elohor. Mama, Mama Edafe said she doesn't have any balance to give to me. I swear, I counted the money after collecting it from her, but I'm surprised that she's lying about not knowing again. Hello began to explain. Mama Kume did not even wait for her to stop talking. She hit her hand on the face and twisted her ears tightly. You will not eat for 3 days in this house. I will use your food money to pay the balance, you lying demon, she said as she pushed her away. Hello began to cry. She was hurt deeply and she said, but Mama, you don't even bother to talk to your customer to find out the truth. I did not lose your money. I'm very sure about it. Mama Edafe is lying, Hello said, walking backwards as she knew her mother would beat her again. How dare you call my friend a liar? You will not eat for 7 days for saying all this. Her mother yelled in anger. Hello went to sit under a tree as her mother went inside. When everyone was asleep, she snuck inside and slept beside her siblings. The next day, Mama Elohor was at her shop when Mama Edafe came to get her clothes. Mama Elohor asked her how much she gave to Elohor, and she replied that she paid all her balance. Mama Elohor then began to talk again. That useless girl. She told me that you paid half of the money, and I knew that she was lying because you're an adult and you're my friend. You can't tell such a lie. She's always a pain to me. That was how she lied that Mama Emeka came to collect some goods, but she actually sold the goods and kept the money for herself. So many times, she would steal her siblings' school snacks and still lie about it. I'm tired of this girl, Mama Elo said angrily. That your daughter is terrible. You really need to teach her a lesson so she can learn. Why would she tell lies just to destroy our relationship? She's truly a demon like you always say, Mama Edafe said. To be honest with you, I'm tired of that girl. I really wish that she would go away and never come back. She has been a source of sorrow to me since her birth, Mama Kume said, sobbing. I actually have a suggestion if you don't mind. I have a brother in the next village. His wife I just put to bed and she needs someone who would run little errands around the house, Mama Edafe suggested. Really? I wouldn't mind though if you could take Hello. I'm really tired of that girl. She needs to learn the hard way. Okay, I'm sure he would like to take her. Just get her prepared tomorrow and I will come pick her up, Mama Edafe said, leaving her store. The next morning, Mama Kume had prepared Hello. She lied to her that she would go to live with her brother in the next village, and when she asked her why Mama Edafe is the one taking her there, she told her that she has lots of clothes to sew. Hello tried to hug her mother, but she shoved her aside, asking her to start going before it gets dark. Hello was not happy with the way she was sent away, but she couldn't do much. The journey was very stressful and it took them 2 days to get to Mama Edafe's brother, Mr. Omukoro. He stays in a village called Agbo. Umukoro is a successful farmer in Agbo and he has a lot of men working for him. Mama Edafe told him that Elo is a liar and a thief and he must do everything to ensure that she doesn't steal his goods. Umukoro was scared of firing her when he heard this and he asked Mama Edafe to take her away, but she refused. When she left, Umukoro called Elo in private and he began to talk. If you want to stay with me for a long time, you would need to be truthful and stop your stealing habits, okay? Elo replied that she won't disappoint him if only he would not treat her based on what he has been told about her. Umukoro assures her that he doesn't treat his workers badly, but if he finds anyone stealing, he will send them away. Elo wondered why her mother would lie just to send her to work for someone in a far village where she had no family. Am I that terrible? Elo asked herself many times. She began to work diligently and Umukoro liked her for her hard work. She would cook meals for the farm workers and keep the house clean. Umukoro's wife also began to like her and the couple were surprised that Mama Edafe's story about who she is doesn't match her behavior. However, the workers often insult her based on her looks, and some people would even tell her to go commit suicide because no man would marry an ugly girl like her. Elo would often cry in secret because of their harsh words, and sometimes she would wish to be beautiful. Days later, she wrote several letters to her mom and siblings, but only Ovie kept in contact with her. Ovie would update Elohor with the recent happenings in the village, and she would tell her that she loves her dearly and will never forget her. However, her mother and other siblings never replied her letters. 2 years after working for the Homokoros, Elohor wondered why her mother never replied her countless letters, and she decided to go home. She told her boss about her plan, and they began to make plans for her journey back to her village. They gave her lots of fruits, veggies and crops to give her parents, and Elohor was very happy. But when she got home, her mother was not happy to see her. Only Ovie, a lovely younger sister, was happy to see her. Makome collected the gifts she brought and asked her to leave on time the next morning to avoid missing the morning bus. Haha, Mama, I'm spending 1 month with you. I've missed you guys so much. Elohor replied, but Mama Kome quickly got up from her chair as she heard this. One what? 1 full month? I'm sorry, but you can't stay here for 1 month, Elohor. You just have to leave. I think you should even start going now. Mama, but I just barely arrived. Why are you sending me away? Elohor asked, surprised. I'm not sending you away. I just don't want issues because now that you're around, things will start missing. Mama Kome said, Mama, how can you believe outsiders above your own child? I tried to make you see beyond my skin color and facial looks, but you never tried to know me. Why do you hate me so much? Elohor asked, her voice trembling and tears pouring from her eyes. I know who you are, Elohor. Please leave my house and don't come back. Mama Kome said. Elohor was heartbroken that her mom could be that heartless. She picked up her bag and stormed out of the house. By the time she got to the motor park, it was already late in the night. Luckily for her, she took the last bus to Agbo, hoping to arrive there by morning. However, at the middle of their journey, the vehicle developed a fault and everyone had to come down. The road was lonely and the people were very scared. As she sat down at the corner of the road, thinking about all the humiliations she had suffered in the hands of her parents, siblings and people around her, Elohor heaved a heavy sigh. A young man sitting beside her heard her and he said, Are you okay? Yes, I'm fine, Elohor replied, using her handkerchief to clean her tears. I do not know what the problem is and I'm not forcing you to share it. But please, try as much as you can to take it off your mind. Thinking would solve anything, the man said. Elohor smiled and thanked the man. They began to talk and soon, Elohor shared some of her stories with the man. He laughed at her stories and he was convinced that she learned the art of storytelling. But Elohor replied, I was born with the gifts of storytelling, just like everyone else are born with different gifts. The man asked where she lives, but she shoved the question aside. Few moments later, the driver told the passengers that the bus is ready to move again, and they continued their journey. Elohor got back to her boss's place the next day, and they were surprised to see her. She had to lie to them that her family had traveled and were not around when she got back home. She didn't know how to explain that her people despised her so much that they do not want her back home. After the incidents, Elohor had decided not to go back home again. She always wondered why her parents hated her so much but couldn't think of a reason. But now she knows they can't love her no matter what. A week later, Elohor was in the kitchen when Emokoro called her to attend to a guest. When she came out, it was the man who sat with her when their vehicle broke down when she was returning from her village. Elohor greeted him and hid her face, hoping that he would not recognize him. She was about to turn away when he pointed out that he had seen her face before. I have seen you before. I don't forget faces easily, he started. Yes, we were in the same vehicle that broke down a week ago, Elohor said reluctantly. Oh yes, I knew it. How have you been? I'm fine, thank you, Elohor replied grudgingly, surprised to see the man again. She was going back inside to continue cooking when her employer asked her to come back and sit down. He told her that the king has heard about her wonderful storytelling gifts and he needs someone to tell stories every evening at the palace. Elohor was surprised. She doesn't understand why a king would want someone like her to tell stories. She wanted to turn down the offer, but Mr. Omukoro stopped her. He told the man that she would be coming to the palace every evening, and the man left. Omukoro was very happy for her. When he left, he started to talk to her. Do you know what it means to be the palace storyteller? I bet you don't. Make sure you continue being a good girl and do not listen to what anyone says about you. I know a lot of people will not like you due to your looks, but you shouldn't stop being yourself or being happy because of them. People who are friends with you are lucky to have you, and the ones who despise you are not worth your time and effort. You are a gem, Elohor, and I want you to always keep that in your heart. Tears rolled down Elohor's face as Umukoro showered her with praises. She thanked him for loving her regardless of her looks, and she promised to be a good girl at the palace and not disappoint him. From that day, Elohor would go to the palace to tell stories, and soon she became a popular storyteller. Kings from neighboring towns who have heard her stories would invite her to events, and she would travel long distances to share her stories. In just a few months, Elohor began to dine with kings and influential people around Agbo and other far places, and her life changed forever. Even though Elohor is not as beautiful as other young women like her, she captured the hearts of many, and one time, a king asked her to marry him, but she turned down the offer. Elohor would turn deaf ears to negative talks and continued improving her storytelling skills. 2 years later, Elohor had become a household name, and the news soon got to her parents and siblings. Her mother was surprised to hear that Elohor had become very wealthy and popular. She couldn't believe that anything good would come out of her. One day, Elohor was invited by a town's king, but she rejected the offer. Her village reminded her of so many heartbreaking events, and going back would mean opening old ones and seeing the people she has vowed never to see again. But she kept getting the invite every month, and the price increases each time. She finally decided to give it a shot after a year. When Elohor got to her hometown, the people were surprised to see that the demon child had become so big. A huge crowd followed her to the village, and the people sang her praises as she walked to meet the king. Mama Edafe informed Makome about her daughter's arrival, and Mama Kome left her shop to find out if it was true. Her siblings also went with her. When they got there, they found out that they had to pay a huge sum of money to see Elohor. Mama Kome yelled at the guard, "Leave the way! I am her biological mother, and these are her siblings." She yelled, "I'm sorry, Madam Elohor does not have any family member except the Umukoros, and we are not told to allow anyone in except them." "Eh? Interesting," Mama Kome said sarcastically. "I don't blame her. I shouldn't have come here in the first place. What a humiliation," she said, easing as she leaves the venue. Mama Edafe called after her, but she did not wait. Mama Kome cried her house out when she got back to her shop. Elohor's siblings told Mama Kome that they would wait until she's done telling the stories at the palace. Maybe they could have a word with her. They decided to use Ovie because of the love between her and Elohor. At first, Ovie refuses, asking them why they wanted her now that she's famous when they never wanted her before. But on a second thought, she agreed to meet Elohor, and they went back to the palace. Fortunately for them, they met Elohor at the entrance. She hugged Ovie tightly as soon as she saw her. She hugged her other sisters too. They informed her that her mother came around, but the guard turned her back, and Elohor replied, "I am aware, and I gave out that instruction. Mother doesn't want me, so I'm doing everything to avoid seeing her. Send my greetings to her," Elohor said as she left the village. She shed tears as she recalled everything her mother put her through. She remembered how she never listened to her, and how she believed the lies told by people who hate her, and how she made her vulnerable to the villagers. Elohor is torn between forgiving her mother and her siblings and going away forever. Are her mother's actions forgivable? What happens next when she forgives them? Will they show her love? These and many other questions raced through her mind as she left Warri. The moral of this story is that every child is special in their own way. Never look down on anyone or judge them based on looks or skin color.